Good morning, traders. It's Tuesday, February 19th. Taking a look at the charts, we've got the SP 500, and more or less, we've seen a pretty strong, steady grind to the upside in the equities market. Start to get a little bit toppy over here when it got into this first level of resistance, and the markets continue to extend to the upside. You can see we got this previous pivot high, which is not too far away. It's near this 2800 mark. This area should be a pretty significant resistance area. Not only is it a whole number, but it's also the previous pivot high. Now, if we look at the markets overall, we've gone from panic selling on the 30-minute chart with an oversold market condition and a cycle low, and we've seen a strong move from there, and we're getting into a little bit of a cycle top. We had greed buying last Friday, and the market more or less kind of just getting ready, I think, for another pullback in the market. Equities are down a little bit today, only down 0.2%, but overall, I think we're getting to this point here where we're going to see the market start to chop around and could start to do a little bit more of a correction before it starts to go higher, a whole lot higher. Taking a look over at let's take a look at the US dollar index real quick. Here's the US dollar index, continues to be in a strong uptrend, working its way higher. It has a series of higher lows, it has a series of higher highs, and more or less we are looking for, it is stuck right through this resistance area here. It's had a nice move up, forming a little bull flag. We could get this continuation move to the upside to get us to 99-100 mark on the chart. If we go and we look at the monthly chart, I think we'll show it. Monthly chart shows this significant $100 mark where it's acted as significant resistance in the past. When it broke through it, it found support, started to trade through it, and then broke down. So that's where I think we could start to see the market continue to work its way up to. This, if we do get this pop and this breakout on the US dollar, we'll see metals and miners have that pullback. We are expecting them to pull back over the next 30, 40 days from now, and more or less that's what this pop in the dollar would do, would be put some downward pressure on metals, but eventually I think we could see the dollar break down and head back down to this 90 level or lower, which would trigger the big breakout, I think, in precious metals looking forward a few months. Going back to the charts here, if we take a look over, let's move over to gold and silver real quick. Gold up, having a nice pop today, was forming this this bull flag, found some support at the 20-day, and it's had a nice pop to the upside. Let's go back and look at this. Let's go to the weekly chart here of precious metals. You can see we're working our way up into this resistance area. This is going to be a significant area for price to really run into overhead resistance. We've got previous high, this blue line. We've got this whole upper end here where price, we're probably going to start to see it become very choppy. We talked about how it could pop up, but more or less we're expecting it to chop around, and if the dollar does have a big pop and rally, we're going to see a good chunk of this get wiped out and probably come back as a pullback in the market, something fairly significant down to this 1260 area, 1280 area going forward. So we are expecting it to consolidate, but we might see higher prices as it chops around with the dollar and everything else for a few more weeks. This is a couple month correction we're looking at. Each bar here is 1 week, so we're looking at probably 8 to 12 potential bars here of choppiness going forward. Looking at silver, up 0.5% today. Silver still underperforming, far off from the previous pivot highs, stuck under some pretty resistance, some pretty key resistance here, and more or less we'll see how it starts to unfold. The big picture of silver still holding up above these significant lows, but really it's a very speculative metal, so it is definitely lagging that of metals and miners. But silver has a way of playing catch up later down the road where it can have a huge move very quickly, but again, usually it lags gold and gold miners. Looking over at energies real quick, natural gas down 1/3%. Still, here's the weekly chart. We're still struggling here to hold this key support zone where each time it's hit, we've seen a fairly significant run off that level. We've fallen very quickly back down into this level. We are looking for a bounce or support. Hopefully we'll start to see this move up and have a significant bounce this week. We are long UGAS, so we do really need a move this week because we'll have contango, or we're already starting to see it, where even though natural gas is holding up or moving slightly higher, the ETF is losing value simply the way that they are designed and roll from contract to contract over time. the ETF loses value. So we're looking for a pop today or this week, and if not, we'll probably be backing out of that position. We just don't want to hold natural gas. It's one of the tough plays of natural gas. There is no easy way to play it. It's very volatile, and the ETFs just don't work well for it if the play doesn't move within a week or two. Looking at crude oil, up 1% this morning. It is starting to push up and test these highs. We're getting into these key resistance areas. So we're flirting with the 5-day, the 20-day, two previous blue horizontal lines going back on the chart, which act as resistance. Looks like we've broken this first one. Now we're pushing up towards the second one. Overall, we'll see what kind of momentum we get from here. Overall, strong looking move at this point. Maybe it's going to extend and pop all the way up to this 61, 62 area we've been talking about. This is where I do expect it to eventually get to, but ideally, I thought we are going to see more of a pullback here and consolidation. We'll see how this week goes. You never know, it could be a pop and drop type of week. And if the dollar continues to be really strong, we might see this pull back a bit more. Last but not least, let's pull up Bitcoin real quick here. Bitcoin, this is the weekly chart, continuing to flag sideways in the grand scheme of things. When you look at the weekly chart, we're still clearly in a downtrend, trading sideways. It's easy to get caught up on the really short-term price action. If you look at the daily chart, we've had a really nice, sorry, that's not Bitcoin. Here is Bitcoin. That was a Bitcoin trust fund. Let me go back to the weekly chart so you can see Bitcoin on a weekly standpoint. Still similar price action. Again, dropping, consolidating. It's starting to show a little bit of life. If we go to the daily chart, you can see we've had a couple 8 or 10% pop type of days in the market. It is trying to break to the upside. You could argue here that we're starting to break some significant levels. We're getting close to breaking these levels. If we go from these pivot highs in the market, we're starting to have some life, consolidation, a pop out today. This could be the early point of a breakout for Bitcoin for it to start to rally up and potentially start a move back up to 555 or 6,000 being kind of the ultimate near-term target where everything kind of broke down previously in the market. That was the line in the sand. Naturally, when something breaks down, we'll try and see it go back to test those levels. But so that's where we are with Bitcoin, starting to show some life, and we'll see how things unfold over the next week here. This is the daily chart, so it is showing some short-term bullishness, threatening to break above this falling trend line, and we'll see how that unfolds going forward. Anyways, that's it for this morning. Talk to you in a little bit. Bye-bye.